Hey friends, you are crafting with Kim Byers, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Christmas calendar with Cricut, how to make a countdown to Christmas. This is going to be a lot of fun. There are tons of different designs to pick from. Down in the description below, I'm going to put all the things that we're using today, as well as links to some of my favorite countdown designs. So the one that I'm using, it fit perfectly with the frame that I'm going to be using, and I'll tell you all about that. But pick one that works best for your home decor, and then I can show you how to change text if you want to change the wording at the top. I can also show you how to change the colors. We're going to go through all of that today from beginning to end. So I hope that you'll hop over to Cricut Design Space with me and we'll walk through the whole tutorial. And then we'll head over to the craft table and we'll cut everything out. Now today I am using the Cricut Explore 3, but don't let that turn you off if you don't have that machine or if you don't have the Maker 3, because you can use any of the Cricuts to create this today, even the Cricut Joy. It is small but mighty. That machine can do so much with a few little tips and tricks in Cricut Design Space. Okay, so let's hop over to Cricut Design Space and get everything going, and then we'll get crafting on the craft table. So here we are in Cricut Design Space, and so this is the design that we're going to be working with today. So Countdown to Christmas. This is the image that I purchased, and I'm going to put links to it down below, along with a ton of other Countdown to Christmas designs. So you guys hop down there and check them all out. I'll show you the ins and outs of how to create this today, and then you can pick your own design to do this. There are some really, really fun ones. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our Countdown to Christmas that I purchased, and I'm going to show you also how to modify it a little bit. So I wanted it to say Sleeps Till Christmas, but you could do Sleeps to Santa, or you could keep it the way that it was. You could infuse color into it. If you guys have seen the videos with my house in it, my house is black and white. Pretty much all the decor is black and white, and then I infuse color into it for the holidays and the seasons. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And I know a lot of people infuse pink into their holiday decor. I cannot get away with that. Guys, I have two boys and they are red and green, traditional all the way. I am not going to get away with any pink, although I think that would be a ton of fun. Okay, so let's go in and let me show you how you would upload this design. So I'm going to put a little video up above in case you've never done this before, so you can kind of check out all the ins and outs of it. But basically you would go into upload and you would use the upload feature here. And so this is my design that I uploaded, but it's pretty simple. And then you would just add whatever you wanted and it would show up here, and then you would add it to Canvas. I'm going to cancel that because I've already done that. But I just wanted you guys to know basically that's how you do it. But make sure you check out the video for all the ins and outs about what type of PNG, JPEG, whatever it is that you need to upload, and the differences between those so that you get the right image for what you're trying to do. Okay, so now that we have our design on the canvas, let me show you how to modify that. So if we click on the design and you can look over into layers, it's going to show you everything that we have over there. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to change out some of our text, and then we're going to change our colors, and then finally I'm going to show you how to resize it and make sure that it fits for the material that you purchased. Okay, so we are going to take off Countdown and we're going to change it to Sleeps Till. So if you click on the original design and you look over into layers, and you can kind of scroll through and find the word Countdown. So now when you click on it in layers, it's only going to highlight the word Countdown. So you are able to then turn it off completely. So now it's disappeared. And I actually want to turn off the 2 as well. Now, if you look at the design that I've finalized, you notice that the lights are closer to the word Christmas. So to be able to move those lights, what we're going to have to do is click on the entire design and ungroup it. Okay, and so then we can go over into layers again, and we're going to highlight the lights, getting all 4 pieces, so all 4 elements, and then we're going to be able to use our our arrow down key to move our lights closer to the word Christmas. You could also click on it and drag them down. So now that we have that done, we can start looking for a font that works well with the word Christmas. Now, by the way, if you click on this, and I'm just going to regroup them all just to keep everything together. Let's just group those back. And all the group function does, guys, is keep it on the canvas together. So when you touch something, it doesn't move like one element, not the other. So it looks a little bit different just because I have them roughly a different size. So I am just going to make it the same size so that you guys can see apples for apples. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to find that font. So what we'll do is go over into text, and then I'm going to type in what I want it to say. So that'll give us a good representation. So this is the basic font that will pop up, and this is your Cricut Sans font. Okay, so I'm going to grab the entire thing and move it down a little bit, because whenever you click on this font this high up, this bar shows up, and it drives me nuts when it goes over top of it and I can't see it. Little things like that can drive us crazy, right? And who needs that? So what we're going to do is just hit select all, and then we're going to move the design down a little bit so that when the bar pops up, it doesn't go over the top of my text. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is just make this text a little bit larger. And then I want to make sure that I center that. And you can do that by clicking on the full design and then clicking on this new text that you added, and then go into align and center them. And so you see it shifted very tiny amount, but at least you know it's perfectly centered. And then I am going to go ahead and change it to black just because it helps me to visualize what I'm creating. Okay, so now that we have changed our text, let's go ahead and talk about colors. And so again, change it to any color you want or any type of vinyl that you want. I probably am going to be using some holographic vinyl, or maybe some glitter vinyl with this design. I think that would just kind of make it pop, and it would be really pretty. And so what you can do is you look over into layers, and so when you click on this, right, it's all one piece. So you can ungroup it and then look over into layers, and so you can grab the word Christmas, just Christmas by itself, and change that. And then you could also go in and change the gloves and all these different elements and change them to the color that you want. Now I did choose 3 different colors. Now I might actually hand place these little lights so that I can have red, green, instead of, green on one side and red on the other. But I kept it pretty simple. You can also use patterned vinyl, and I'll show you guys that as well, but that could be really fun to add another level of something. You could make the stocking a patterned vinyl, or the little gloves, even the word Christmas. It could be super cute. Okay, so now that we have our colors in place, the next thing that we need to do is we need to group, actually take that back, we need to attach some of these things. So just so you know, when you group something, that is, putting it together so that it stays on the canvas together. That does not help you when it goes to matte. So when you go to matte, you need to attach things so that they don't shift and don't move on the matte. So what we're going to do now is we're going to attach some things. We're going to attach colors. So when we look over at this one that is final, this is something that I've already done. If I click on the word Christmas, it's going to show that I attached it to the little peppermint and the candy cane. And I did that because I didn't want to have to hand place each one of those. I did not attach the lights because, again, I may do those by hand just so that I can change up the colors. And you could do that on canvas, but it would take too much work in my mind with the contour tool, and so I just think placing it by hand is probably going to be simpler. Okay, and then I did go down and I attached these 2 gloves. So if you look over here and you click on the original design, those gloves are individual. So you could hand place those, or you could take a minute and just attach them so that they cut together and they don't shift. And then I actually attached the tree and the little holly leaves. So if you look here, you can tell they're attached, but if you click over here, see, they're individual. So those are just time savers for you when you get all the way to matte. Okay, so now that we've changed our text, we've modified our colors, and we've attached things, it's now time for us to make sure that it's the appropriate size for the canvas or the frame or whatever we purchased to put this on. So the next thing we want to do is we want to hide the elements that we're not going to cut. So I'm just going to drag over top of that entire piece. I'm going to group it which lets it all come together in layers, and then I can turn it off all at one time. If I did them individually, it would just be lots of clicking. So by grouping them, I'm able to turn them off together. Okay, so now we're left with a design that I want to create. I have a frame that is 11.5 inches by 18 inches. So when I click on this design, let's select it all real quick and let's group it. And so now I can see how big it is. So it's 9.4 by 16.4, which is perfect for what I'm doing. Now, if you could drag it at the corners and make it bigger or smaller, and you could take a little bit more time and change each of the lines so that it was more of a square. But what I would recommend is if you have a square frame, go into these links that I have down below and choose a design that is already set up for square, unless you just really love this one and you want to spend the extra time putting it together. So now that my design is perfectly ready for the frame that I have, then I am going to go up and check my machine. I'm going to be using my Explore 3 today. And the reason I'm using that is because this design, because it's long, 16.4, I want to cut all of the black all at one time. And then I can easily place it on, and then I can put on the individual pieces. But the majority of the design is going to go down all at once. And so that's going to be really cool that I can cut it all together. Okay, so now it's time to select our machine. So we're going to be using the Explore 3 today. I'm excited about being able to use the smart material for the length of this design, but no fear, if you do not have an Explore 3 and you do not have smart material, you can still make this project. Just use the contour tool, and I'm going to put a video up above showing you how to do that to break this design into chunks for either the Joy or the Explore or the older Maker. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and select Make It. Okay, so it's asking us if we want to use smart material. We're going to be on the matte or multiple ways. I am going to use smart material for the black, but I'm going to use the matte for the red and the green. So let's choose multiple ways. Done. Okay, so let's start out by looking at our black. So if you look, I mean, how great is this, right? It's all going to be placed onto the frame that I have all at one time with transfer tape. So that looks good. So let's go over to the red. So for the red, we're actually going to look in the left-hand navigation, and we're going to change this to on the mat. So it changes our view. And so now what we can do is we can actually move these around to maximize the material that we have so we don't waste anything. And I'm just going to move those mittens over a little bit just so there's a little more space. And this guy we will hand place, but I'm just tucking him in there so that we can maximize our material. So now we are cutting 4 3/4 by 12. And so then if we look over at our green, it's the same thing. We want to change that to on the mat. And what I personally am going to do is I'm going to move these lights into the area between the holly and the tree. I just need a little bit of backing material to hold those two in place so that they go in the right place on the design, but I hate to waste the vinyl, so I'm just going to use that with my lights. Okay, so now everything is ready to go ahead and go to the machine. So let's go ahead and hit continue. Okay, so now that our machine is connected, the next thing we want to do is select our base material. So what pops up here are favorites, and then you can also click to see what is popular. And so I'll close. So for my black, I'm going to use the shimmer, but then I think I'm going to use holographic for both the green and the red. And so even though I can't have all the pinks and other colors in my decor, I can add a little bit of glitter, a little shimmer. So it's not, this particular smart vinyl is not glitter per se, but it does have a shimmer to it. And so I'll show you that. It's going to be really pretty. Okay, so now that we have that done, and then we don't need a tool in clamp A, we have our fine point blade in B. We're ready to go over to the craft table. Okay, so here we are on the craft table, and these are the things that we're going to use today. So we're going to use our Cricut Explore 3, and then I have this great little tray that you use with smart materials. You don't have to have the tray, but I'm excited to try it. It's perfect for the larger rolls. It actually helps feed it in and keeps everything straight, and it even has this great little cutter on it. So I'm excited. It's a new toy, so I'm excited about giving that a whirl. And then this is my weeding tool, and I have a ruler. I have a pair of scissors. I have a really pretty little frame, the black border with the white interior, and then I have smart vinyl. So this is the glitter vinyl, and it actually comes with strong grip transfer tape right inside. And then I also have a holographic and in green and red, and then I'll be using regular transfer tape with those two colors. So let's go ahead and move everything out of the way, and we'll set up our smart vinyl. Okay, so now we have our shimmer material. We're going to place it inside of our holder. And just feed it in, and then we're going to make sure that it goes underneath these feeds, and then we'll press the load. Isn't that neat? Now it's measuring to make sure that it has enough material to complete our project. I love this part, and it's fun. Okay, so now we are ready to cut. Okay, so it's finally finished cutting, and the really cool thing about this, guys, is this is a blade. So now it stopped where it was, and so it didn't like feed all the way back up. And so now you can just take your tray and you can cut off. Whoops, that was user error, not that was me. But you can just trim this away, and so then there is the rest of your material. And then when you hit unload, look at that. This is so much fun. Okay, and the nice thing about this too is that, you know, it's really hard to see on materials like this exactly where the last cut was. And so if you use this trimmer, you know, to trim it off, you know that you are catching it right at the end. And there is some extra that is over here. So as I weed, I'm gonna try my best to save this piece on this side. Okay, so let's go ahead and load on the next materials, and these we're gonna put on the mat. Okay, so now we want to put our other materials on the mat. So this is an Art Deco, and I chose this because I had it on hand, and it was the vibrant red that I was hoping to use. But there's also some really cool patterns that you could use. These are really nice. And then I'm also going to be using a holographic in green, which is kind of like a shimmery. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use our paper trimmer and cut out the amount that we need, and I need roughly 4 3/4 of an inch. Let's just pop this in real quick. And I love this trimmer because I can be very precise, and I actually need a full 12 inches. So now I have exactly the amount that I need. Put this to the side. And because this is vinyl, we will put the shiny side up. Just make sure you get in the corners at the top. This mat is maybe not as sticky as I would like for it to be. I think I got that one off there. So I am going to use a little bit of tape to put it, you know, just to make sure that it doesn't shift when we put it over to the material, or I mean over to the machine. I'm going to put a little bit of tape in each corner. Okay, and so we will cut this one out, and then we will go back and cut out our green. Just one thing to note, make sure that on your computer, on the Cricut Design Space, that you're changing this over from the material that you had, which was the sparkle or the shimmer, to this Art Deco, and then make sure you change it again for your holographic. All of these materials are slightly different, and if you want to get the precision of the Cricut, you need to make sure that you change your material type each time. Okay, so now we just need to take away our tray. Then we'll use our mat, and we just want to put this underneath the feeds. I love the way these new machines sound. They are so quiet. Okay, so now we have all three of our colors cut out. So next thing we want to do is we want to weed. And so each of these is a little different. So this little holographic is going to be really easy to weed, I think. And so if we look, you can't see this on camera, I'm sure, but I can see the edges Okay, so now we've weeded out all of the designs, and so unfortunately while I was talking I accidentally weeded out part of what I was not supposed to weed out. So this is a lesson learned, guys. Make sure that you check your design before you start weeding to make sure that you don't take up parts that you don't need. So if you look back at the original design, I was supposed to keep the black on the inside and take out the numbers, and I did not do that. But I actually started to recut it and I looked at it, and I think it's actually really darling both ways. So I am going to keep it as it is, and then we are going to go ahead and take our transfer tape and put it onto the design and start moving it over to the frame. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to put this mat underneath my design, just because it's going to pull up much easier if I get my transfer tape over onto my table. And so what we do with the transfer tape, and remember we're using this strong grip with this kind of shimmer material, you want to peel it from the corner. And the thing is what comes inside of the packaging, so like this is, the Smart Vinyl was long enough for our project, but our transfer tape is not long enough to move our project all at one time. So what we're going to do is, because I want to keep this spatially the way that it should be, we are going to pull up one side of the transfer tape, and this stuff is super sticky, super sticky. Okay, we're going to use our grids and try to make it as straight as possible. Okay, and so we are going to pick up the top of this design first. We're going to use our tool. See, again, this is really sticky. I didn't want it sticking to my table. We're going to use our scraping tool and pull slowly back away the transfer tape and put that down. And I'm actually going to grab the first level of numbers because I want this space in between Sleep's Till and the numbers to stay perfect, because it fits perfectly on my design. And I don't want to have to try to do that by hand and then get it wrong. So I am going to, I may be able to grab my second row of numbers, but I know I can get my first, so maybe I should stop while I'm good and get my first row. Okay. And then just make sure that you go in between all the little letters and the numbers, and that way it will pick up your design. Super easy. Okay, so now that we have our design on the transfer tape, or at least half of it, what we want to do is we want to find our center point. So our frame, including the outer edges, is 12.5. So our center point would be 6.25. So if we look here, we can see our center point, 6.25. And if you remember, our design does not have a lot of space at the top and bottom. Getting this correct, this first piece correct, is so important to making sure that the entire design looks great. So if you remember, 16.5 inches long in Cricut Design Space by 9.4 inches wide, and so if our center point is 6.25, we only have about 3 inches on each side. And this, the string lights are actually the widest portion of the entire design, and we only have, if this is 17.5 long, the frame itself on the interior, then we have about a 1/2 inch on the top and on the bottom. Okay, so we're going to have to be very precise on this first piece. I'm just going to put this to the end so I can kind of see, and then I'm going to move this way up. We're going to put down where we think it should be, and then we are going to measure. Yeah, so I have about 1 inch on each side, and we should be able to then line everything up below using our numbers since we grabbed the first layer of numbers. So you can do this with your finger. I would also recommend using your scraping tool or a brayer if you guys have a brayer. I'm going to link these tools up down below the description. That way you guys can hop over and check them out as well. I tell you, I didn't have a brayer for the longest time, and then once I got one, I kind of fell in love, and I was like, wow, if I had had a brayer all that time, then I probably would have had a much easier time of getting some of my designs in place. So this is what a brayer looks like. And of course you can do it with your fingers, but if you're like me and you like gadgets, this is a really great one to have. It's not expensive at all, and it's quite handy. Okay, so now that we have that in place, slow from an angle, and if anything pulls away, just put it back down. Use the brayer or your fingers again and put it into place. Now, strong grip is so sticky. It's a little harder to deal with than the regular transfer tape, but it is absolutely critical that you use it with glitter vinyl, or I guess in this case shimmer vinyl. Wow, this is gonna be so cute. Even though I didn't do it right, I took out the centers, and I should have taken out a small ring and then left the centers. I think it's gonna be so cute. I'm excited about this. Okay, so let's move our frame out of the way. Bring back in the rest of our design. We're once again going to line it up as best we can. I would line one of the grids along the top of that first row, as perfect as you can get it, so that you know you're keeping everything straight. Another idea is you can flip it on its back and kind of pull away backwards. And so sometimes that helps with this really sticky transfer tape. Okay, removing it backwards turned out to be hands down the easiest way to get the transfer tape off. So that is amazing. So let's make sure that we do it that way from now on when we're dealing with this really strong transfer tape. So now what we want to do is we want to make sure that the distance between our first row and our second row is consistent with the distance between all of the other rows. So we want to be really careful because, again, super sticky, but we want to measure that distance between there, and it looks like it is 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so then we are going to get our frame together, and what I would suggest, because you do not want the bottom to stick before you're ready, is to maybe taco it a little bit so that you can work with that top row. Okay, so now that we have these down, we'll pull the transfer tape away slowly, and then the next thing that we want to do is go back in and put in our red. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and put on our holographic and our deco art. And so I'm going to use transfer tape for some of the items, and then some of these I'm just going to place by hand. So I'm putting on the little lights right now, and then we will use transfer tape for the Christmas. These items were together, these were together, and then I'll hand place a couple of these as well. Okay, so our Christmas countdown is done, and the last thing that we need to do is to have some sort of a marker to mark each of our days as we go. I picked up these sweet little wreaths. These were $1 for 3 at the Target dollar spot, but you can find them at any craft store, anywhere they're selling little ornaments. I'm just gonna snip off the string, and then we're gonna use a glue dot on the back of our wreath, and then that will easily allow us to like move it along as we go. That's cute. Okay, so I hope you guys loved that project as much as I did, and I hope that you will give it a try. Make sure that you hop down in the comments below and say hi, or leave me any questions that you might have had about today's project, and I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join me for all my future videos. See you next time.